It's just not gonna work out. Good Lord. Getting on this polyp, $50 or $60 or something like that. Started sprouting polyps. Fingers crossed. All right, today marked a milestone of some sort, a sad one. One of the rose Bubbletip anemone is going today. That big one. So as you can see, the big one is encroaching on the Zoa garden. By the end of the day, usually is touching the Space Invader Pectinia and touching all these Zoas right here. And it's just not gonna work out. And I already have something coming to replace this rock structure in the back. It's gonna be a structure similar to this. So that should arrive in a couple weeks. But right now, my main goal is to safely and carefully remove the big rose Bubbletip anemone. Now, the big one is gonna go to my Reef Sensei Telegram. The smaller one, I'm not sure yet. I may try to find a home locally, and I think there's some people that express interest as well. The only thing I'm worried about are these little clownfish right here. They are so used to living in these huge anemones. I'm not sure how to adjust to a tank with no anemone. Or I've been thinking about maybe keeping the smaller one for a little bit first, or maybe even moving the Colorado sunburst anemone, which is really small right now, into this tank on this island until it gets bigger and I have to address it again. My plan of attack, if this was a smaller anemone on the glass, I can easily use like a credit card or just use my finger to massage foot until I let go. But as you can see, this one is stuck in pretty well inside the rock crevice. So these days I don't really mess around with the foot and whatnot. What I do is just gonna use a chisel. Well, I don't have a chisel, but I use a flathead screwdriver and a hammer just to kind of like chisel out a piece of the rock to take with him. I mean, like, if you like this tank so much, take a piece of the tank with you. I mentioned this time and time again in my videos, but these long sleeves yellow gloves has been fantastic. This is probably my third or fourth pair. They lasted quite a bit for me, and they just work really well, stays up well, and then obviously watertight. Just make sure you don't get any salt water in from the top down, which is a little bit tough, but they do happen if you dig a little bit too deep, because once water goes in, these guys stink. Anyways, I'm a huge fan of these non-aquarium specific yellow gloves. If you guys are interested, I have a link to the Amazon product below. I'm just a huge fan of these guys. Oh my Lord, look at the size of this. Good Lord. Look at all the water coming out. My God. So I know some people actually just leave the anemone hanging upside down like this. Eventually they'll just let go and drop in the bucket. But let's go with something a little bit more gentle but violent at the same time, and that goes a lot quicker. Just chip off a piece of rock with the foot, and so we got something to hang on to anyways. Alright, so we have it right here. Should be pretty straightforward. Pretty quick. Perfect, here it is. I'll keep this in a bowl right now until Telegram can come by and pick them up a little bit later today. The unfortunate side effect is that it looks like I also split this rock, which is fine because that chunk is too big and I'm gonna replace all these rock with structure as well, so this is perfectly fine. I'm gonna use this chance to remove some of these xenia that has been an eyesore as well, and then we'll quickly return this back in the tank. Okay, and here we go. This is the rose Bubbletip anemone in its own bowl, waiting for pickup. It's on its own little piece of rock, ready to be just plucked out. And look at the size of this guy. It's gonna have a really nice life in that nano tank of gem. Well, in fact, it's gonna take over the whole nano tank. It's gonna be a sight to be seen. And there is the other piece of rose Bubbletip anemone. And that guy, I'm pretty sure I will be rehoming as well. I'm really tempted to put it into the Mangrove Tank to see how it does and move the CSB here, because the CSB is much smaller, have a lot of time to grow. But I don't know. The reason I really want an anemone in this tank, regardless of like how much of a pain it could be a year or two down the road, is that I do have a pair of clownfish that I dearly love. I've had those clownfish for close to almost 7 years or 8 years at this point, and they are my babies, and they're one of the main reasons why I upgraded to 135.
3 hours later.
All right, guys, it's time. Here we go. And shout out to you all on the Reef Squad's cooler. Oh, I hear sound upstairs. I think it's time to go pick up Leon and keep the cooler out. So see you guys on the tripod. All right, as we transition this tank more and more towards SPS, I'm starting to remove some of these Gorgonian. And the reason I'm kind of doing this as well is because I noticed that torch coral has not been the happiest in this tank for the last 2 or so weeks. And what's upstream of it? Gorgonian. It's either blocking the flow or shedding some kind of mucus or releasing something into the water that may be bothering the torch corals. Now, this is just my speculation, but I have read that some of the Gorgonian have that effect. Same thing with leaded coral. They sometimes do shed, and it bothers other corals as well, namely Euphyllias. So with all that in mind, and to reclaim the space so I can plant more SPS, I plan to snip off that big piece of Gorgonian right there. That's the Grube's Gorgonian, and I already have some frags down at the bottom of the tank getting ready to mount and then to be traded off or just give away. So today we're not gonna prolong the agony. We're just gonna snip off the big branch, and then we'll be able to have more space for SPS. So with that said, let's see. We need to address all these frags of Gorgonians. So I'm going to go ahead and mount them all at the same time. Move the orange filter. I'm kind of soaking these frag plugs just so that they expel all the little oxygen trapped in the porous surface area. All right, so since I've talked about how to mount Gorgonian frags in the past, I'm not gonna go over it in too much detail here, but what I'm gonna do essentially is drill a hole in the frag plug. If you don't have a drill, you could use like a nail or something. Just make sure you like clean it up well afterwards. Drill a hole a little bit further down the stem from the top here, and then what I'm gonna do is once I get the frag, I'm gonna shave off the skin so that you only expose the wire skeleton. I'm gonna insert the wire skeleton here into the hole that I will be drilling, and I'm gonna super glue it to make sure it stays. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. It's a little bit more work, so this time I'm gonna use a drill to help versus using a little nail to dig a hole. And if you use a nail, of course, you want to make sure you clean it out properly afterwards as well. And it goes in the hole perfectly, like this. Look at that. Even without super glue, it's kind of like hanging on there. But we're going to dab some super glue in there and then push it in to kind of secure it. 呢個我哋整咗之後可以即係攞出去賣啊、交換啊咁樣。
我係興趣啫，賣乜嘢啊？
呢個一碌20幾蚊嘅都。係咪？都唔夠你哋食餐飯。唔係，有啲貴嘅。係咩？好似金色嗰個一細碌就80蚊咁樣。真係有買？有嘅有嘅。At the end, I like to do a little bit of a glue accelerator, just so that, and I dip it in water really quickly because it does heat up. And here you go. And here we are. We got 5 frags of the Grube's Gorgonians. Those are from ORA, and also we got a nice purple frilly Gorgonian out of the bunch. So that used to come from here. Oh, that's kind of cool. See a piece of the Benipet's flake drop onto the oral disc of the Elegance Coral. I'm interested in whether it's going to grab it or not. You see that little dot right by the mouth? I think the coral is reacting to it, although really, really slowly. Not like the sun coral, where it's just gonna close up right away. Well, actually, you know what? It is closing up right away. You see that little dot right by the mouth? It's trying to eat it. It's happening. It's happening. The mouth is moving over.
5 minutes later.
There's the mouth. Trying to maneuver. And the rat got it. What a jerk, man. Alright guys, a bit of a bad news bear. So yesterday, almost like overnight, the Mangrove Tank imploded. What I mean by that is the Space Invader Pectinia little mini colony, which are in pieces right now, got into a fight with the fluffy Gorgonian in the Mangrove Tank. And first I noticed a little bit of receding at the tip of the Gorgonian. Then that's when I noticed the sweeper was actually long enough to reach the Gorgonian all the way at the edge of the tank. I was like, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna address this, maybe chop off the Gorgonian tips and move it further away. Unfortunately, there's no tomorrow because the Space Invader Pectinia, as you can see right now, in pieces, basically just RT'd really quickly overnight. I had to do an emergency fragging, hoping that I can at least pull these 3 pieces from the piece that was like receding really quick. And the Gorgonian was pretty much like all wire skeleton. It disintegrated really fast. And that kind of fluffy Gorgonian, which I still have a small piece back here, this type, this is one of the more aggressive Gorgonian. I was doing a little research in terms of potential toxins that Gorgonian release, like other soft corals into the water, and that one particular one is actually pictured as being a little bit more aggressive in terms of chemical warfare. So the Mangrove Tank, it's in a hot mess. It was in such a mess that even the Colorado sunburst anemone that has been staying put ever since I put this in the tank started roaming around. That's when I know something is seriously wrong. Not to mention all the other soft corals started shedding mucus, so something in the water is really bad. So of course I'm gonna do a big water change. But aside from that, I decided to move certain corals that are a little bit more sensitive, like the anemone, which is not a corals, and also the newly fragged Space Invader Pectinia into this tank, just so that it has some like fresh water. Now having the CSB here presents its own danger because the typical reefing knowledge is that you do not mix these high-end Bubbletip anemone with wild caught or the more common rose Bubbletip anemone, which I have here. So right now, everything seems okay. I have it in its own specimen container. Water does go through, so it is sharing the water. But so far, it seems okay. Just in case, I'm running a little bit of carbon as well to kind of help address any of the potential chemical warfare between the Bubbletip and anemone. But we will see. We will see. So far, it seems happy. And so far, the Space Invader Pectinia is kind of holding steady as well. So fingers crossed. All right, guys, this is a really weird micro observation, if you will. So I'm entering this GMK Zoa for a coral grower contest, which is probably going to be a mistake because GMK grows so slow. But anyways, the reason I mentioned that is because I've been looking at this polyp more closely due to the grower contest. I noticed that this particular Asterina Starfish insists on getting on this polyp for whatever reason. I saw this guy a couple days ago. I used a tweezer, plug it off. I just kind of chuck it to the side all the way to sand bed. A couple days later, it's back up here trying to get onto the polyp. Did it again, and today, look, this guy's here again. So I think the next place is gonna go. It's I mean, I don't want to do it, but yep, this guy is definitely trying to get onto the polyp. Jeez, man, look at this little guy. I'm not sure if Rose Bubbletip anemone is gonna eat it, but there he goes. Peace.
3 days later.
Okay, so here's this going on. So I have 3 Space Invader Pectinia frags, and there's a story behind this. But right now, it got some brown stuff coming out of his mouth, or 2 mouths. So I'm hoping that this is poop. Otherwise, sometimes when coral bleach or whatnot, they'll expel their symbiotic algae. I'll try to pronounce it, Zoanthids, and that's what that looks like too. So we'll see how it goes.
2 days later.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you guys a quick update. But before that, let me go ahead and feed my fish first. So, man, I feel like an infomercial, but I really like this brine shrimp hatching kits. It does not work as efficient as the standard ones with the airstone and stuff, but this to me just much easier because basically it's just like a dish and you just put some eggs in there, mix some water up, and that's it. Day and a half later, so they just hatch. I like feeding the fish before I film because like this way they have a little bit more active, a little bit more interesting. See, look at this, especially the Anthias. And I still got all 5 females and the 1 male all accounted for, and you notice that this is the largest female, and the largest female actually started to have a elongated dorsal ray, the first ray, and that's typically what the male have. So I think basically that's her saying that I'm next in line in case anything happens to the male. But hopefully she won't actively try to make anything happen to the male. So these are all the Gorgonians I fragged. I think there's already one person that's interested. I haven't really shared this on social media yet, so hopefully they'll go soon because there's a lot of Gorgonian. I may just leave one here, or maybe none, and I'll just keep the Gorgonian in the Mangrove Tank, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. The second thing I want to show you guys are the Space Invader Pectinia. So it was really touch and go. It could really go either way, whether I lose them all or I was able to save it. And it looks like we may be in the clear. For the first 3 days or so, they're not inflated at all. They look really flat, which is not always a great thing. So once in a while, it's okay. But after 3 or 4 days, they started getting a little bit poofy, so that's a good sign. And with that sign, I need to move these guys because once they're happy, they have a tendency to send out sweepers to make sure that, yeah, I'm happy here, but I want to make sure I'm the only ones here. So I'll be moving the Forest Fire digitata, which a fish actually fragged for me from there to somewhere else. And also I'll be moving that, oh my goodness, what's going on there? It's like World War III breaking out upstairs. My goodness. So next thing I want to update you guys is the goat torch I said was not doing well. I did end up losing 1 polyp. Basically receded, and that's it. And I just noticed I have it downstream from the group's Gorgonian again. Man, come on, you know, purple reefer. So yes, I will be moving this frag, and it looks like this head is kind of touch and go. I'm not sure. I may try to dip it, but typically I like to just let the coral do its own thing. I feel like the more I touch it, the worse it gets. It looks like that polyp seems okay. This one is, I don't know. So yes, I will be moving that torch coral after this. I did not realize I parked it once again downstream from the group's Gorgonian. Even though once again, it is not confirmed. I just read some stuff about Gorgonian, and just to be on the safe side, I figured let's separate them, and yeah, and we'll go from there. So hopefully that polyp will pull through, and but the rest of the guys looks totally okay. Look at these guys right here, completely happy. And speaking of happy, I'm really happy to report that the Colorado sunburst anemone has been in this tank for a while and seems okay. And same thing with that dude right there. So the structure that's gonna replace that chunk of rock is finished. So I'm waiting for it to ship. And after that, I'll probably pull half this rock and leave the base half and just keep it in the refugium, just so that I keep the biofiltration and just some kind of like surface area for the critters I have in the refugium. It's actually really lively down there. So at that point, I probably need to rehome that rose bubbletip anemone as well. And the next thing is the fish, man. The fish are doing so well. Look at the purple tang. So the purple tang is one of my latest addition. The first 2 or 3 days was kind of sketchy with the yellow tang, and you guys can look at the my older videos on how I acclimated them together. And I'm really lucky because I was able to find one that's a really small size that's not going to challenge existing dominant tang, or this shape of tangs. And I was really lucky too because I have this structure that the purple tang could dart into and the larger tang could not get to him. So I was lucky in that aspect. It's almost like the big tang tried to haze him but couldn't get to him. So eventually they're just like, all right, you know what, forget it, seems all right, not worth trouble. And that was that. So now we got the tang gang. Yes. The other thing that was bothering me a little bit, some of these zoas. For the most part, they are relatively open, and a lot of times they are open, but they're reaching upwards. So like from the side, it looks like they're kind of close, but if you look from the top down, they're actually fully open. So that's one thing. I thought about it, I was like, okay, that makes sense, because if you look at my lights, look at this. So my main light is in the middle. These are the awesome Radion G5 XR15. And I have one LED bar in the back, mainly for the SPS, because I don't want to blast the tank with too much light. So I kept most of the SPS at the back side of the tank for now, right? I want to grow them out and then slowly replace things at the front. This way I always have something that's more full. It's not a tank full of like small frags. Anyways, that was the plan going in. So I have the LED bar in the back, and up front it's pretty much dark. So it makes sense that the coral up front growing here is going to try to reach up and over the rock to get to the light. So I thought about it, I was like, all right, I get it. So I think what I'm gonna do is actually order another LED bar so that I have some light here and angle it this way, angle it inside the tank. This will encourage the zoas to kind of flip and turns towards the front glass where people tend to look at the tank. So I know in the last video I say like keep the light, keep the flow and stuff like that, but this is a fundamental issue that I need to fix. Like later on when I start growing more SPS up front, I would need a light here anyways, and I would hate for the corals to like kind of come upwards and then go up and back. Yeah, so that's one of the issue that I'm kind of looking to address at the next couple months or so. But this time around, I'm talking to the manufacturer of these light bars and see if they can install a dimmer. It seems like they have these options. They have a Bluetooth option and they have like an inline option, but I'm still chatting with them, trying to learn more about it and how much more it's going to cost, because again, these bars are super cheap. I think this one cost me like maybe like $50 or $60 or something like that. So really good value, throws out decent amount of par, and the coloration is great. Now if I could just have a dimmer so that I can acclimate the corals to this new light, that would be fantastic. But I'll keep you guys posted. But I think in terms of like corals and stuff like that, I try my best not to do too much, even though yeah, in this video I cut up the Gorgonian and removed that whole rock to pull the Bubbletip Anemone out, but those are inevitable. I feel like I have to do those. Otherwise, SPS Island, I completely left them alone. Euphyllius Garden, just left them alone. All these things, I just try my best not to touch them. And just look at the Ganipora Island garden as well. They're growing really well. At some point, I do need to remove those Zoas. I think they're on a plug, and kind of clear out this area or break up this rock so that the corals are not fighting each other for space. And I also want to point out the Kryptonite candy cane, even though they're not poofy as I like, but they are dividing. They're starting to grow really fast, which is excellent. And the SPS, I guess I'll do a video on them a little bit later on in terms of the growth, because they have been steadily growing, and they're just, let me step back a little bit. They're starting to fill out that rock work, which is excellent. So I feel like in a year or maybe 2 years, that's gonna look nice. And I think in terms of like tank balance, in terms of aesthetic, I've been looking at it. I feel like right now the SPS is starting to be able to kind of like handle, like it's starting to have a little weight. It's not just like tiny little nubs. So I feel comfortable to start like removing or moving some of the corals, larger chunks up here, and start planting frags in different area. But yeah, that's for a different video. Try my best not to touch as much as possible, even though again in this video I did like blah blah, but again, part of the evolution of this tank. But trying my best here. Another thing that I'm really happy about, I think that's Fruity Pebble, I think. I'm not 100% sure. It's starting to encrust onto the rock. Same thing with the Master Yoda, that green piece right there. And also the Thunderstruck. That Thunderstruck has really encrusted onto the rock. And the places that encrusted really fluorescent. It looks really bright, which I'm really happy about, because as you can see, the frag dulled out for me. Probably because I'm not pushing that high of a par compared to TSA where it came from. So I'm really interested to see how they grow out. I'm really excited about it. And I'm also really excited about that new structure. And I still need to build an island for the Colorado Sunburst Anemone, because I think I'm going to keep this here. I'm going to rehome that guy and keep a smaller Bubbletip Anemone in this tank. So I need to find some place to situate this guy where it's not going to get onto the SPS Island and wreak havoc like that guy right there. All right, well, with that said though, oh man, there are a lot of things I didn't talk about. It's like every part that I looked at in the tank, I want to talk about it, because I don't make weekly video anymore. So there's so many little changes that I really want to share with you guys. But I guess this video is long. So I'm gonna, look. Sorry, distracted. But this video is long. I'm gonna cut off the 135 update right here, and I'm gonna jump over to the Mangrove Tank, because I promised that I'm gonna show you how the Mangrove Tank right now. So here we go. All right, reefers, so here is a look of how the Mangrove Tank look right now. I was honestly expecting almost a tank crash, but I think that one big water change and then followed by another water change the following week really helped stabilize things, and things are looking good. Dare I say good. There are a couple things that hurt. Number one, of course, the Gorgonian that just basically imploded. And the situation is this. Basically, like I mentioned earlier in this video, the Space Invader Pectinia mini colony is sitting right here. Gorgonian is sitting right there. Normally, they don't really touch, but for whatever reason, that one night, the Space Invader was extra frisky. So sent the sweeper out, tagged it right there, and seemingly overnight, the Gorgonian just kind of imploded, disintegrated, and sent tissue all over the tank. And besides the tissue, that type of Gorgonian is known to have some kind of toxicity as well, so it probably released some stuff in the water column. The problem with this tank is that number one is a relatively small tank, it's a 17-gallon tank, and number two, it does not have mechanical and really any solid type of filtration. It is essentially a fishbowl. So if there's mechanical filtration, at least it will handle and hold all the detritus or the tissue of Gorgonian in the back, and it does not. So tissue is kind of flying over the tank, and also in terms of carbons, I'm only running one small bag of those ChemiClean Blue, so there's not much carbon in there, so that may play a factor if in case the Gorgonian does release some chemical in the water as well. So with that said, what happened is that Gorgonian tissue go all over the place, the chemical go all over the place, the water quality probably went way down. The space invaded Pectinia really quickly just RTN'd, rapid tissue necrosis, and that further dragged the water quality down. The casualties, besides the Gorgonian and the space invaded Pectinia, this one hurts, is the Japanese Anthias that I got from Lynn. I know everybody's like, oh no, right now, because that was rare, and that's a soft coral that I really, really like. So in the near future, I am hoping to be able to find another frag of the Japanese Anthias to plant back into this tank. The good news is that the space invaded Pectinias, I did emergency fragging. I pulled 3 frags from it. All 3 of them are doing fantastic in the 135. They're all poofy now, they're all healed up. So at some point, there I say I may put one back in here, but most likely not. The sweeper is a little bit too long for a small tank like this, unless I can find a corner where the sweeper will just go into the wall. But chances are I'm not going to chance it. I may introduce the Grube's Gorgonian into this tank in that little slot right there, because I think the Grubes, even though yes, Gorgonian has a risk of releasing some kind of chemical into the tank, but the Grube seems to be not as aggressive as the fluffy one. Which again, when I was googling Gorgonian toxicity, that particular Gorgonian showed up as the poster child. So I was like, oh, okay, all right, good to know. But other cool things about this tank at the moment, since we're talking about it, is that the finger leather is doing excellent. That is the frag that I pulled from here. It was initially like growing right in front of the MP10, blocking flows and causing water to spill out. So I cut it off, planted in the back. Looks like it has pretty much ready to attach to the back overflow, so it's like excellent to see. It's filling out that gap right there, which is its intended purpose. The bonus is that on the trunk of the mangrove tree, those remnants tissue started sprouting polyp as well. So over time, I feel like there may be another little chunk that's going to grow off from there, which is going to look awesome too. Another cool thing that I noticed is that you notice that this coral right here, this toadstool, and that one in the back, they both came from my good friend Joseph. And you notice that they look kind of different. So this is a good example of like if you give coral good flow and good lights, it will just look fantastic for you. Look at how nice the polyp looks in terms of coloration. Versus here, where it's a little bit more stagnant and it's a little bit further from the lights. The polyp is not as white as that one. And that's just like a visible difference. Same thing with the Xenia. I dialed back the light recently due to the whole thing going on. I feel like, okay, the coral's probably not uptaking as much nutrient. Let me dial back, let them rest a little bit. And they browned out a little bit. Versus when they're in higher light, they're like a pure white with a hint of pink. It looks a lot cleaner. Right now it looks almost, dare I say, a little dirty. But that's also a good case study for how important good light, especially good light in this particular case of color, is to coral as well. And the other thing that's interesting is that, look at this, the green tree leather and this green tree leather, they're the same kind of corals. Look at that. But depending on where they grow, this one's right under the light, and the amount of flow they get, they have different kind of formation. This one's a little bit chunkier because it's pretty much sitting right next to high flow pump. And this one, the flow is a little bit more gentle, but the light is like bright on it, versus that one doesn't get as much light because it's kind of like outside the edge. So they have different characteristic as well. So that's something to keep in mind of. If you want the coral to look great for you, give it a nice environment, put it where it likes, and then it'll reward you with how it looks. Now with that said though, I think we'll kind of cap it off in this video, but one thing before we leave, I want to show you, Emily's awesome outfit today. Look at this.
Woo!
Look at the professional lady. You think it's professional, except it's drawn on. She drew this on her shirt. She drew this on her shirt to make a work outfit. That's amazing. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button. And also, due to my irregular upload schedule right now, it's more important than ever. Hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that notification bell. So each time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. And you'll be kept up to date to see what's happening with this tank, that tank. And I think I'm gonna start traveling again soon and go check out other reef aquarium and also swap. So things are gonna heat up a little bit. And by the way, you remember the reef structure I mentioned earlier in this video? It has arrived and it looks fantastic. I can't wait to show you what it looks like and how the tank looks with that structure in place. See you next video. Alright, this giant thing is wrapped really, really well. That's my first impression. Goodness. I feel like I can toss this down from the second floor, it'd be okay.